morning, everybody. For those of you who don't remember, my name is Bob Kenyon. I'm helping out with environmental health and safety issues, and we're periodically going to do some training. Today we're going to go over 2 or 3 subjects, and as always, stop me, raise your hand if you got a question, and we'll try to work it out. The first topic is bloodborne pathogens. We're in the process of getting certain employees trained in first aid and CPR and such. And they're going to be trained to work with blood, other body fluids, etc. For most of us, we're not trained. So the policy here is we don't touch it, okay? Make sure you're trained before you touch any kind of blood or bodily fluids. And that's the quick on that. The next topic is the emergency action plan. And our emergency action plan, you actually have a copy of the whole thing. If you could go to basically the back, I think it's the last page. Ooh, you've got a complete packet. The last page of the emergency action plan should look like this. It says emergency response personnel. Everybody there?
Emergency response personnel?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. These are the people that will be in charge of the emergency for you know, from top to bottom. Craig is the emergency coordinator, so everything's going to funnel through him. Paul, Raul Jr., and Mr. Betancourt are going to be the wardens. So what you need to know, if there is an emergency, number one, you're going to need where to go, and we'll talk about that later, but who you've got to see. So whoever you report to, you have to make sure you see them and identify that you're out of the building, because then their responsibility is to get with Craig and identify any problems with that. So is that understood? The next 2, or if you go to the 2 previous pages, you'll notice that we'll have a map of the 2 buildings, this and the one across the street on James Street, and arrows. So this is the direction we want you to go and where we want you to muster or assemble, which is down right over here next to the store. Okay? And again, go see your wardens, identify you're out and such. In this building, you'll notice on the back wall that there's different exits. You know, you can get from point A to point B. So if the fire's over there and you're in the back, you don't necessarily come out this way. You want to go another direction. So it's an alternate route for you to take. Very, very important should there be a problem. Is there a question about that? Okay. The third subject is personal protective equipment. And for the most part, even in here, most of you are wearing it. Gordy has done a lot of work doing job hazard assessments. And we've been working together trying to put these as far as what jobs you do, what equipment you should be wearing to protect yourself from the hazards out there in the workplace. For example, head hazards. We have various, and you've got your bump hats, various, I guess, tasks, we can say, that you can hit your head. So management has determined that a bump hat is good for you, and I tend to agree. You have situations where you're cutting, you have impacts, you have chemicals, you're working with MEK, you're working with chemicals, and you have dust hazards. So for the most part, you should be wearing your safety glasses to protect yourself from that. Hands. We're wearing protective gloves depending on what we're doing because we can cut, have abrasions. We don't want that. We don't want to puncture. We're working with chemicals. And we also have burns. So it's very important when we're in a situation like that you're wearing gloves. Feet. Some of the things we're working with are heavy. We Now, Gordy, correct me on this. We're just wearing leather.
Yes.
There's no steel-toed shoes, right?
Correct.
Correct. And for the most part, that should be enough to protect you from the materials that you're working with, should it happen to fall on your feet. Something that we didn't go through is hearing protection. There are certain things out there where I know you wear hearing protection. I know that your mixers, whoever does mixing, and I forget who does that, might wear your hearing protection, because it is kind of loud out there. Machine guarding is another thing, equally back in the mixing area, making sure the guard is down, that we talked about last time I was here. And then finally, some of you, I remember, use masks, right, for VOCs when you're painting or things like that. That's another form of protective equipment, which is totally good to use. OSHA likes it. And what we've got here is additional fact sheets, additional information on that. So what OSHA wants you to know is that you can use this equipment, glasses, gloves, etc., but wear it properly. Be aware that when PPE is necessary. I know when we were doing some of the videos, people forgot to say put their glasses on. It's got to become second nature, and you got to keep doing it. Understand the limitations. Just because you have this this protective equipment, that doesn't mean you're Superman. Just be careful. Put and adjust, wear and take off and maintain your equipment. It's very, very important, and we'll talk more about that with the respirator. And then, I don't see anybody with long hair here, but if you do have long hair, it's very, very important that it doesn't get caught in machines and such. And depending on the type of PPE you're wearing, make sure you clean it. If you're wearing earplugs or masks, they're disposable. You don't want to reuse things like this. So wear them once, throw them away. Don't put them over here and think. So I don't want to see this up here. You understand? Let's see what we got here. A proper fit is very, very important. Whether we're talking about the hat, and making sure it's centered, not high or low on your head, making sure that you have the right gloves, the right glasses, and the right footwear. And I've redundantly put information in Spanish in here for those who would prefer that. One of the prime PPE that requires individual training per OSHA is that respirator. And I've given you a little quick card here, which tells you the type of respirators. We're using NIOSH approved dust masks. They're disposable, like I said, throw them away after they're used. But in the last page, which is Appendix D, OSHA again reminds us, we love you wearing it. You don't have to. We haven't proven that you're above any exposure limit. However, when you're wearing it, you want to maintain it. You want to put it on properly. So that means when you take your respirator, you stretch it out. You make sure the nose piece is properly going over so that you have a good fit. The one thing I do see here is a lot of facial hair. Unfortunately, for those who actually wear a mask, if you do have facial hair, it's not going to have a good seal. So you're not going to adequately protect yourself. You're going to get blow-by, unfortunately. Now, I remember back in the day, I used to wear a foo, and I'd shave it up. So I make sure that the respirator fit underneath it. With that said, are there any questions? Anybody feel they need more PPE? based on getting hurt or anything like that? No?
Okay, one question. When you're doing a production, I mean, like say, sometimes quicker is not the best way. I mean, if it's done properly, I mean, in a timely frame, you know what I mean, that you get it done. I mean, if you're rushing, a lot of mistakes do happen because you're trying to get the product up out of there, and it's like, you know what I mean? So when you're going quick, it's like you make mistakes. So I try to take my time and do at least what I gotta do, you know what I mean? But I don't try to go too quick in doing it because I notice when I go quick, I make mistakes. I leave stuff where I ain't supposed to leave it at and stuff like that. So
That's very. It's a big blend. You know, I think anybody from management would say essentially the same thing. Is that, you know, we want you to put out product, but we want you to put out product safely. Okay, very, very important. Yeah, that you don't rush, trip, fall, cut yourself, etc.